Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another webinar by Data Platform Geeks. My name is Rohit, and I will be your host for today. And I have Satya with me, who will help us with the moderation and Q&A for today. I'm sure all of you already know a couple of our initiatives under eDomina Systems. SQL Maestros is one of them. We do a lot of HOLs, master classes under them, and we have accelerators coming, which has come up something new. And Data Platform Geeks, you are all a member of Data Platform Geeks if you're watching this video. And we have our annual summit, that is Data Platform Summit, coming up. So it's coming up in the month of August, and it's a 3-day summit from 9th, 10th, and 11th of August, with 2 days of pre-con on 7th and 8th. So we have released the first 54 sessions out of more than 100 plus sessions. You can all have a look at it. It's all on our website. Please browse www.dbs10.com. And this is the DPG core team. These are the teams from Bangalore and Kolkata offices. Special thanks to Microsoft, who have been backing us for a really long time now. And yes, all of you are DPG members, so you can make use of all the free content that we have on our website and all the free events that we do. You can all join our Facebook and LinkedIn groups and post your questions or answer them if you like. Okay, without any further delay, let's welcome Edwin from Canada, who is also an MCM and MVP. Over to you, Edwin.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me properly. Let me just share my screen real quick. There we are. And I hope you can see my screen now. Thanks everyone for joining in. We've got 21 people in our webinar. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. I'd like to say good afternoon for those of you who are in India. I'm up in Canada, so it is for me 5:30 in the morning. Let's just say it's a good morning for me. My name is, by the way, this webinar is entitled From Technician to CEO, a roadmap for advancing your career. My name is, there we are. My name is Edwin. Edwin Sarmiento. I'm a Microsoft Certified Master and Microsoft MVP, but you might be wondering, what the heck is that guy doing and speaking about career, advancing your career, when he's supposed to be talking about SQL Server and highly technical topics. I'm the managing director of a company called 15C. It's a consulting and training company that specializes in SQL Server high availability and disaster recovery. If you have any questions as we're going through this webinar, type them on the chat window. The Q&A is there. Type them there. If you got like thoughts or insights and you feel like this thing is resonating with you, type it in chat window. You can always say, hey, I feel like that applies to me. Okay. Use the chat window. In fact, why don't we do just that? Why don't we try it out this time? Type where you're from in the chat window. Say hi from, let's say, Bangalore, or hi from wherever you are. Let's try that and see if that works. This from Russia. Ooh, I was in the Ukraine last month. Yes, I can still keep track of my dates. Hyderabad, India. Kiran, Maxim, welcome. It is a pleasure for me to be a part of Data Platform Geeks. I've known Amit for a while. Well, not for a while, but I've known him for more than a decade. And doing presentations like this, professional development, is something that I'm really, really passionate about. Number one, it is what drives most of us. Most people think that our technical skills as IT professionals is the one that would help us advance our career. But when you interview majority of the people you know in the industry, whether they're experts or CEOs, even people who are not in the IT industry. And if you ask them, it is actually not your technical skills that would help you grow your career from, wherever you are right now to wherever you want to go. Now, quick question for you, and you can type your response in the chat window. What's your role today? Are you a DBA? Are you a technician? Are you an operations engineer? Are you a systems engineer? Are you a DBA manager? You can type your response in the chat window. Mackin says DBA. Karan says data architect. Raj says DBA. And again, welcome to all of the database people out there. ODS developer. Wow. I wanted to start off this presentation by getting you to really think about who you are right now and who you want to be in 5 years' time. How do you see yourself in 5 years? Put your name in that section, that small box over there, and feel free to type the job title that you want. It could be anything. Okay, it could be a project manager, it could be a senior IT manager, could be anything. Feel free to type your name in there and type the job title that you want within the next 5 years. And every time I do this presentation, I kind of tell the story of the trips that I make. I travel a lot for work, plus we're only once up here in Canada. My family is in the United States, and they're all over. My family's in California. My wife's family is in New York City. And, it's kind of hard to convince family members to pay us a visit. More often than not, we'll get this, it's too cold up in Canada. Usually it's us visiting family in the United States. And so every once in a while, we go and visit family in New York City. Yes, that's my home address, and that is their address in New York City. And of course, before I even get into the car, I would look at where am I going, how do I get there. My favorite map or GPS tool, Google Maps. Of course, sometimes I use Waze. But at least before I leave the house, before I even start the engine in my car, I would look at, what do I want to go? How do I want to get there? And in this case, I'd be like 2 options. I could either take the route that would take me about 6 hours and 58 minutes, about 437 miles, or I could take the one that would take me about 7 hours or 4 minutes, or I could always fly. But it's not fun flying. So I would opt for the one that would take me the least amount of time. Now, mind you, 7 hours in the car is not fun at all. If you're driving through the blizzard and there's a snowstorm coming, so I got to be ready even before I leave the house and start driving the car, right? And I'll pick that route anytime. Sometimes we check our calendar. Because like I said, I'll check my weather. I've had that experience driving in a snowstorm when you can't see anything at all. So imagine if, let's say, I'm going to use kilometers here because look, I'm in Canada. Maximum speed limit when you're driving is 100 kilometers an hour. And if it is snowing with a snowstorm, with a blizzard, I can barely drive my car. Maximum that I can go is probably 20 kilometers per hour. And that affects how I drive. So I would look at the calendar and schedule how we plan our trip. Do we plan our trip on days when there's an upcoming holiday and it will take us longer because a lot of people are traveling as well? I also check my weather to see, is it a good day? Is there going to be a bad weather as I'm driving? I'm also going to check, I'm also going to pack all of my stuff, like If I need to bring 2 weeks worth of clothes, I will. If I need to bring like my laptop because I'm working as I'm going there, I would plan everything that I'm going to bring as as we're preparing for the trip. I will also look at my car. And the reason I want to look at my car is I want to make sure that before I even drive my car for 8 hours or even longer, depending on the traffic, that my car is ready, it's fit, it's well maintained. That way I don't have to worry about any problem that I might encounter with the cars I'm driving. Now, keep in mind, this is an 8-hour or more long drive. And now, as we're getting on a trip, so let's say I've already set my GPS. I'm driving out of my driveway, heading out to the highway, main highway. And as I am going on the trip, here's what I do. I check my fuel level while I'm driving. It's not that I always check it. Like I would check it let's say every hour. And a quick glance on my dashboard would tell me, do I have enough fuel to make it to the next stop to fill up my gas or petrol? I remember when I was living in Singapore, people would call it petrol. I'm used to calling it gas, but this is something that I would do every hour, or maybe even a quick glance at my dashboard to see, do I still have like half my fuel tank? Do I filled? Do I still have like enough again to make it to the next stop? I would also check the speed. Why would I want to check the speed? Well, I want to make sure that I'm not going above the speed limit. And this is something that has gotten me into, I want to say into trouble a few times as we were crossing from the United States to Canada. And I didn't know this. I was driving a little bit faster than the speed limit. And I can tell you, it is very, very expensive to be driving above the speed limit in North America. So I'm checking my speed to make sure that I'm not going way, 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 way above the maximum speed limit. Maybe 10 kilometers per hour more, maybe, or 10 miles per hour more, maybe. I don't know. I'm Asian, so I sometimes try to drive as fast as I possibly can. And I also want to make sure that I'm not driving too slow. Because if I planned my trip, I know what time I am going to arrive in my in New York City or wherever my destination is. So at least I have an idea how fast I'm going, how slow I'm going, so that I know whether or not I can make it in time as per my my calculations. Or I don't actually do calculations. I just let Google Maps do the calculations for me. I also look at the status of my vehicle. So I'm looking at my fuel gauge. I'm looking at my speedometer. I'm also looking every once in a while if I get that check engine light. Of course, if I planned and if I made sure that the car is well maintained before I left, there's no need to worry about this. But who knows, right? Things happen. So I need to be ready for it. That way, if I see something wrong in the car just by looking at the dashboard, I can make quick decisions. I can maybe pull over, stop in the nearest petrol station, and maybe check it out. If my temperature is increasing, maybe I need to put water, or just to keep the car cooler a bit. Here's a question that I usually ask people whenever I tell the story of me planning our trip, and as we are going to our destination, the question I usually ask is, how many of you actually plan your careers like this? We spend so much time planning our holidays, our vacations, our parties, our anything. We spend so much time planning. We look at our logistics, we look at our schedule, we look at who can help us, Like when you're planning your trip, when you're planning your vacation, or when you're planning your holiday, you get in touch with, maybe your travel agent, or maybe you're booking everything online and you don't need a travel agent. But then you ask for help from people like, what do I need to see when I go there? How do I get there? Right? But when it comes to our careers, how many of us actually plan our careers like this? And the reason I started off by asking you to fill up that small box with your name and your job title and how you see yourself 5 years from now is because nobody will plan our careers for us. You work for your job, you work for the company that you're currently working for, and you assume that HR will plan it for you. They won't. You assume that your boss will plan it for you. It's just like handing over your career to your boss and expecting him to plan. He can't even plan your schedule for the next couple of months. What makes you think that he will plan your career for you? He won't. Okay. You accept, or rather you assume that growth will just happen automatically. No, that is not a typo. That is so not a typo. I intentionally put that. I'm inventing a word called automagically. You assume that growth happens automatically. It's as if it's magic. It's a reason why it's called personal growth, right? Because your growth is personal. Nobody can take care of your growth other than yourself. In fact, I tell the story about healthcare up here in Canada. We claim, and most of the Canadians would claim, we have free healthcare. But it doesn't really matter whether you have the best healthcare in the world. It doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world to afford the best healthcare. Nobody can take care of yourself and your health other than you. It is your responsibility. Now, how many of you here would agree with that statement? Say, I or me, and I fully agree. Type your response in the chat window. Now, here's the thing, though, because I want you to really claim ownership of this idea. I want you to claim ownership of the idea that nobody is responsible for your personal growth other than yourself. Because failing to plan is planning to fail. I know this is cliche. You've probably heard this a ton of time. Failing to plan is planning to fail. But yet we ask ourselves the question, how come I'm not getting promoted? Or how come I'm not making more? Or how come I feel like I'm doing the exact same things I did 10 years ago? Maybe you forgot to plan your career. And that's what this whole presentation, the whole webinar is all about. And, I'm going to be very honest with you. 30 people in this webinar versus 150 people in the webinar that I did 2 weeks ago. Just because it's a technical webinar, people want to join, want to learn how they would be able to do something. Like a few weeks ago, I did a webinar on how to configure always on availability groups on Linux. And I got a lot of people interested. But here, 31 people, it tells you so much about people's way of thinking when it comes to growing their career. Again, people like us think that it is our technical skills that would help us grow our career, but it is more than that. And that's why you really need to plan your career. I call this principle the P.D.A. principle. It's something that I've learned when I was in Singapore, which is very, very interesting because I've lived in Singapore for 3.5 years working for a well-known Japanese IT company. If I probably dropped the name, you would know exactly what the company is. And you know the work ethic. And as an Asian, I am a workaholic. And if you are an Asian and you're a workaholic type, I can relate to that. I can work myself to death. That's just who I am. And here I am learning this principle in Singapore, a very fast-paced environment, high stress, high tech country, working for a company that is run by Japanese who also have very good work ethic. Let's just say we're all just workaholics. But as I was riding the bus in my work one day, I realized something that I've learned that has helped me grow my career from somebody who was just fixing computers back then to somebody who's now managing and leading my own company. And this is called the P.D.A. principle. And the P.D.A. principle, the P.D.A. stands for 3 key principles. And this is something that I want to remember, something that you can take away from this webinar. P stands for prioritize, which is very, very interesting because a lot of us would, teach ourselves or learn as much as we can about time management. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. And you kind of wonder, how come that guy can do more than I can? How come that guy is more successful than I am? How come that person has accomplished more than I have, given the fact that we all have 24 hours in a day? The secret to that is the first principle in the P.D.A. principle. P stands for prioritize. Identify the things that matter to you. What matters to you? And this is key because nobody else can do this for you. You need to identify the things that really matter to you. Now, understand we are all in different phases of life. Somebody would be in the early stages of their career, maybe fresh out of university, fresh out of college, and they're pretty new in their career, first 2 or first 3 years. Somebody might be in the middle stages of their career, between 37 to 47, or maybe between 35 to 45. And, they're either a senior DBA, a senior engineer, a senior developer. I don't know. And it's a different stage. Maybe you're on the end of your career and you're getting ready to retire. And not only that, maybe you just moved to a new country. You're a new immigrant and you're just getting settled down. Maybe you're a new father and you just had a baby, and this is a very new stage in your life. We are all in different phases of life. That's actually me. That's where I'm right now. And as the phases of your life change, so does your priorities, which is why you really need to let the current phase of your life, wherever you are right now, let that guide your priorities. If you're if you're beginning your career, you're in the first 2 years of your career, you may have a different priority than somebody who's been in their career for 10, 15 years. Way different than somebody who's been in their careers and almost about to retire. Your priorities are way different than somebody who has a family and have kids. And somebody who no longer has kids at home, maybe the kids are in college or university and they're getting ready for retirement. But let that phase of your life guide your priorities and enjoy every single moment of it. Sometimes we get so caught up with the things that we do and the things that are happening to us, we forget that there's so many things to really enjoy in life. Don't get me wrong. I fall into the same trap as everybody else. Going through the notions of every day, looking at how the day is driving my decisions without realizing, hey, I could just stop what I'm doing right now and just enjoy anything I could think of. I could just enjoy and appreciate it. I made it a practice. I remember when I was in Singapore, every morning, and I really mean every morning, when I wake up, I would grab a cup of coffee and just look outside. I'm looking, facing the window, looking outside, seeing the sunshine, and I can't imagine the fact that I am in Singapore and how beautiful the city is. Moving to Canada back in 2008, I did the exact same thing. In the morning when I wake up, grab coffee, look at my backyard, and just appreciate the fact that I'm here. How many people get that opportunity? How many people get that opportunity to speak about their experiences to people? And like I said, let that phase of your life guide your priorities. You personalize your priorities. Again, depending on where you are at right now, you know what your priorities are, right? Prioritize your priorities. I've got things in my life that I highly prioritize. My health is one. I used to not care about my health. I'll eat whatever I want. I would sleep whenever I want. I would work as hard. I don't really care. It's a good thing I'm Asian because I don't get sick that often. But I started to realize I need to take care of myself. My health is on top of my priority list. My family is on top of my priority list. So what I do is I schedule everything that is in my priority. I prioritize rest. I prioritize my family, and I make sure that those priorities come first. Now, again, if you are pretty new in your career, you have to define what is top priority for you. But you also need to make sure that you have non-negotiables in your life, because those non-negotiables will dictate how you would define and how you'd move forward to your career and face the future. The next one, so we talked about prioritize. Next one is discipline. D stands for discipline. It is developing the daily habits that support your priorities. And like I said, I'm in my early 40s. And my priorities are way different than when I was in my 30s or in my 20s. But because I know what my priorities are, I know how to build my calendar. And as I'm building my calendar, I'm always thinking, is this part of my priority? In fact, what I do is I plan my calendar 6 months in advance. If I'm doing a consulting project, if I need to travel, I plan my calendar 6 months in advance. But before I even plan what I do for the next year, what I do is at the end of the year is I will already block out special dates in my calendar: birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, vacation days with family. I will all get that blocked out at the beginning of the year. Why is that? So if somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, we want you on site. We want to hire you as a consultant," I can look at my calendar and then I will tell them, "Look, can I get back to you?" And I just want to check my calendar. And if your request falls on a date that I've already blocked, I just have to say, "Sorry, I can't accommodate that." And people respect that because they know that you have boundaries. They know that you got your priorities straight. In fact, when I was working as an operational DBA a couple of years ago, I had my phone set up with do not disturb between 10 p.m. and 8 in the morning. Now, I don't care who calls. I won't pick up the phone after 10 p.m. and I'm not going to answer the phone before 8 in the morning. Because I want to prioritize my health. You build your list, you highlight your priorities, and put it in your calendar. Things that are not getting scheduled don't get done. Put in your calendar and try to stick to it. And I did say try. Okay. Why try? Because trying, okay, life happens to us, right? I've disciplined myself to follow my calendar, but sometimes things just happen to us. Things just appear before us, and life just gives us something that we're not expecting. So what I do is I try to look at my calendar before I start a day, highlight the things that I need to do, and I say I need to do because they're in my priority, and then do them. If they don't get done, I don't beat myself up just because I didn't get to do them. I said try, because life happens to us. And the key there is, again, discipline. But please don't feel bad if you didn't make your schedule, or if you didn't get to do what you scheduled to do. There's always tomorrow, and there's a reason it's called discipline, right? It is what we plan. It is what we put time and effort into that gets done. Your dreams are not going to happen automatically. You got to prioritize. You got to discipline yourself. And what's really important is the third piece of the P.D.A principle: accept. Why? Why accept? Well, acknowledge and accept the fact that we can't do it all. Like when I was starting off in my career, and I guess it's just because of the fact that I'm Asian, I want to do everything. I want to be the network guy. I want to be the DBA. I want to be the sysadmin. I want to be the operation. I want to be everything. I've learned everything. In fact, the reason why I know a lot about so many Microsoft technologies, I think it's just because of the fact that I'm Asian. And I really wanted to learn a lot when I was younger. I tried to learn Active Directory. I tried to learn DNS, networking, storage, SQL Server, SharePoint, System Center, VMware, anything that I could get my hands on. But as I'm growing older, I know I can't do all of them. So I need to prioritize. That's where the P comes in. I need to prioritize. What do I really want to be good at? And so 10 years, it's 12 years ago. 12 years ago, I made that decision. I'm only going to focus on anything high availability in disaster recovery. Sure, every once in a while, I get to learn something new. I get to try something new, but I really want to focus and want to be an expert on high availability and disaster recovery. And realizing I may not be able to do SharePoint again, I may not be able to do Active Directory again, but I know I'm really good at one thing, and that is high availability and disaster recovery. But that comes from a belief that I can't really do it all. If I'm not good at something, it also helps me think about, hey, who can I reach out to? Who can help me with this specific task? Accepting a limitation is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a declaration of confidence. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to go to where I want to go. We all have limitations. We all have things that we can't do. But we don't have to beat ourselves up for that. All we have to do is find out, what am I really, 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 really good at? And the one thing that I've learned when I move up here in North America is that I need to embrace who I am, but I also need to focus on one thing so that I can be really, 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 really good at something. So that if somebody would ask for, hey, who do you know that is really good in SQL Server high availability and disaster recovery? In fact, for the past 3 years that I've done business and I've done consulting projects, majority of them were referred to me because the person who referred me knew that I was the guy. And I was the one to call if they need help on anything high availability and disaster recovery. You need to understand that we need the better path to get to our next destination. You understand that you need to prioritize. Identify the things in your life that really matter to you at this stage. You need to discipline yourself to make sure that your priorities and the tasks that would contribute to your priorities get done, and accept the fact that you can't really do everything on your own. And in order for you to become, a project manager or an IT manager, or who knows, a CFO or a CTO or a CIO. You need a better path. You need to plan your career, and you think of these three key things: prioritize, discipline, and accept. Imagine, imagine for a second that your life is like this wheel. Now, I did start with a story of traveling and driving. Imagine your life looking like this wheel, and you've got like different aspects in that wheel. First aspect is intellectual. We spend so much time on the intellectual aspect of our life as technical professionals, learning something new, reading blog posts, watching YouTube videos, tutorials on how to do something. We spend so much time, like I said, on the intellectual aspect of our career. And then you have the emotional aspect of your life. These are the things that, sometimes you don't pay attention to, but really matter. Ask yourself a question. How do you actually perform at work when you don't feel good about something? Maybe you have an argument with somebody who's really special in your life. And then when you get to work, how do you perform? Do you perform at your top? Do you perform at your best? Do you perform with excellence? That's why you really need to build this aspect of your life. You also need to look at the spiritual, and I don't mean religious. I just look at it as spiritual, something that would, uplift your soul. And how are you building that? As well as the physical. And I did say physical. In fact, statistics say that the IT professional is actually one of the most riskiest jobs in the 21st century, because you're sitting in your desk the whole day. You don't stand up unless you need to go to the bathroom, or you need to grab a drink, or you need to eat. But other than that, you just sit the whole day. It's one of the most riskiest jobs in the 21st century. I've never thought about that before. I thought working in a dangerous field, maybe you're working with, outside, or, being exposed to risky environments is risky. I didn't realize that just sitting on your desk for an entire day is a risky job. So look at your life in these four different aspects. You got intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical. Plan for growth on all aspects. And what I mean by that is you apply the P.D.A principle on these four key areas in your life. Now imagine this, imagine for a second, if one of these areas in your life is way better than the other areas. Let's say the intellectual part of your life is way, 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 way better than the physical aspect of your life. How would your wheel look like? In fact, a deflated wheel is not something that you want to use for your car when you're driving, or even in your bicycle. It is an uneven tire or an uneven wheel. Efficiency is going to suffer because you didn't properly put enough air on your tire. Imagine areas of your life like this. The goal is to make sure that you're balancing all of these key areas in your life. Like, for instance, you set aside time to improve your skills. Like every day, you read something new. You read a blog post, an article, a document, watch a YouTube tutorial. You do that every day, or sometimes you research on things that are new. You attend a training class. You watch a webinar like this. This is you improving your skills. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you're trying to learn a technical skill or you're trying to learn a soft skill, like public speaking or leadership or time management. Like I said, most people call it time management. I call it priorities management. Instead of putting more activities in your calendar and prioritizing them, why not just list your priorities and put them in your calendar? And you learn things like, again, learning project management, learning communication skills. The fact that I'm a Microsoft Certified Master and a Microsoft MVP gives me the privilege to have access to the SQL Server product team and to the Microsoft Certified Masters, the Microsoft MVPs. But beyond all of that, in the past 3 years when I started my business, I've spent so much time on things that have nothing to do with SQL Server. Business development, communication skills, public presentation skills, leadership, sales, marketing. These are things that I had to learn. In fact, just this year alone, I've spent so much, and I mean so much, even more than how much I spent finishing my university degree. I spent so much time learning and money learning things that have nothing to do with SQL Server, because I want to make sure that I'm ready for the next phase of my career. You set aside time, and of course, with time comes resources, your effort, your actions. You spend meaningful time with the people that matter to you. The people that matter to you, who are they? Are they family? Are they friends? Are they colleagues? You spend time with them, because this is where you get your emotion pumped up, your emotion driven. And here's a very interesting exercise. Okay, why don't you sit up straight wherever you are? I can't because I'm standing. Why don't you sit up straight right this very moment and think about one of the happiest experiences you've had in your life, maybe for the past 3 months or 3 years. Think about that experience. How did that make you feel? Now sit up straight, close your eyes. Think about that for a second. How did that experience make you feel? Did you feel excited? Do you feel energetic? Did you feel enthusiastic? Did you feel overjoyed? And think about that for a second. And as you're thinking about it, think about what you're going to do tomorrow. Are you going to be solving that problem? Are you going to be troubleshooting that issue? Are you going to be facing or meeting with your manager or your boss? And as you're thinking about what you're going to be doing tomorrow, think about how you would approach that. This is called emotional priming. It's the fact that you're getting yourself hyped up to face the challenges. And you know what? When you think about the best times in your life, the times where you spent meaningful time with your family and friends, the times when you're experiencing joy and enthusiasm and those emotions, you start feeling like you could do anything. Spend time with people that matter to you to get you filled up, to get your emotions filled up, because this will get you ready for how you would tackle the most challenging action, the most challenging tasks, and the most challenging problems in your job. Think about that for a second. You spend time to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I don't mean going to the gym. There's nothing wrong with that. But maintaining what I call a healthy lifestyle. One of the reasons I got myself a Fitbit about 3 years ago is because nobody believes when I tell them I get an average of 7.5 hours of sleep. Now, mind you, it's 6 o'clock in the morning my time. I woke up at 5 or probably 4:50, 4:45. I woke up at that time. I slept at around 1 o'clock, so I only got like 4 hours of sleep. And after this, I'll do my morning routine. After lunch break, I would take a nap to get caught up on sleep. I do my regular exercises. I set an alarm every 4 hours, do brisk exercises, anything just to keep me moving. Push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, anything. I hop onto the treadmill, anything that would get me fit. I don't go to the gym, but I make sure that I maintain a healthy lifestyle. Again, being in IT puts us in a risky job category. And you have to take control of that. Like I said, nobody can take care of your health other than yourself. Do something, keep moving. Beautiful weather outside, walk, do anything to maintain that healthy lifestyle. Not only that, watch what you're eating. Do you plan what you eat? Do you just go and eat as much junk food as you can? Plan it. No amount of free healthcare or no amount of money can actually get you to practice a healthy lifestyle if you don't want to. And then you maintain a spiritual lifestyle. Like I said, this does not mean religious. Take time in your day, whether it's in the beginning of the day or in the middle of the day or at the end of the day. In fact, do this. Just do this. Think about 3 things that you are so grateful for. Just think about that for a second. Spend a few seconds thinking about the top 3 things that you're grateful for. And trust me, your day will never be the same. We spend so much time complaining about so many things that we forget there's so many things to be thankful for. I'm thankful for the fact that I'm speaking to people I haven't seen, and I'm on the other side of the globe. I'm thankful for the fact that I live in the 21st century, the 22nd century, because I can do things that I wasn't able to do back in the days. I remember back in August when I broke my leg, and I literally broke my leg, and now I've got like a titanium rod in my right leg. I'm just grateful for the fact, and I tell people this all the time, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Why? I was so grateful for the fact that I live in Canada and I didn't have to spend anything to get that operation. I'm thankful for the fact that I live in this day and age where I have fast internet connection. I can work anywhere, wherever I want, whenever I want. To a point where I was doing an online training class with Brent Ozar back in September with my leg swelling because it was just a few weeks after the surgery. I was making money in my shorts and t-shirts with a bandage in my right leg. I'm thankful for the fact that because I couldn't drive, well, I can't because my right leg is just after surgery. I'm thankful for the fact that I can open up my phone and call an Uber and I can go anywhere I want. There's so many things to be thankful for. And this is something that I tell people. You don't need to be religious to practice this. You just have to look around and be thankful for the things that you have. Remember that slide that I showed you a few minutes ago, where you put your name there? It's a blank sheet of paper. You put your name there and you put your title, whatever job title that you want, and how you see yourself within the next 5 years. A couple of years ago, I was reading a book called You Are a Writer. It was written by a guy named Jeff Goins. And I like the title of the book. It says, you are a writer, so start acting like one. I want to replace this with you are a CEO or whatever title you've thought about for yourself in the beginning of this presentation. You are a blank. Project manager, IT manager, D.D.A. manager, you're a CEO. Replace the title with the thing that you've thought about in the beginning of this presentation. You are a blank, whatever that blank is, and start acting like one. And I tell the story about when I was a kid. I grew up in the Philippines, born and raised. Every morning before I go to school, we have household chores to do. And mind you, if you're an 8-year-old kid or a teenager, the last thing you want to do before going to school is doing household chores. But here I am, doing household chores and thinking to myself, when I grow up, I want to be a consultant. I don't even know what a consultant is. I want to be a consultant. I want to live in a house with at least 2 floors. And I want to have my office in the 2nd floor. I want to have my own home office in the 2nd floor. And this was more than 30 years ago. At the back of my mind, I've been always thinking about that day. When that time comes, I will be in my house with at least 2 floors, with 1 room functioning as my home office, working as a consultant. 30 years later, I'm living that very dream. And that's why I want you to really think about this for a second. Replace that title. It could be a CEO, could be a manager, could be anything. But think of yourself, how you want to be, where you want to be within the next 5 years. Write that down and tell yourself that for the next 5 years. You are a blank. So start out acting like one. And I'd like to wrap this up with the key things that I've highlighted throughout this presentation. You prioritize. List the things that you value, the things that you prioritize in this stage in your life. If your career is important, well and good, but make sure that you're focusing also on those 4 key aspects of your life: emotional, intellectual, physical, spiritual. Put effort in developing all those key areas in your life. And then discipline. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. Put it in your calendar, schedule it. I mean, we all live in our phones today. Literally, we all live in our phones. Put that in your calendar, set an alarm, remind yourself. If you want to set an alarm throughout the day to just think about your accomplishments for the past 5 years, maybe you've gone this far, but set an alarm on your phone to just spend like 5 minutes thinking about, some people call it meditation, and you can call it whatever you want, but it's just a way for you to remind yourself how far you've gone. Maybe you started off as, maybe like me, who was just fixing computers when I was starting off my career, and now you're a senior DBA or a senior developer. Give yourself credit, and this is part of, again, practicing and putting emphasis on those 4 key areas of your life. Start scheduling that physical activity. It may be playing a sport. It may be anything, just to get yourself moving and have that maintain that healthy lifestyle. Schedule time to enjoy life with your friends, your family. Schedule a vacation. Schedule some time for yourself. Take care of yourself, and accept the fact that you can't really do everything. I mean, it's very liberating for me when I made that decision that I'm not going to do everything. Even though I know I can, I will try not to do everything. And if there's something to take away from this webinar, it's this. Remember these 3 key principles as you're moving towards the next phase of your career. Whether you want to get promoted, whether you want to get into the next job or the next company or the next role, keep these 3 things in mind. I want to remind you of this thing. There's a reason I started off with this slide. Put your name in there. In fact, here's what I wanted you to do. Print this out. I'm going to send you a slide. Print this out. Replace the job title down below with the one that you really want within the next 5 years. Put it in your mirror and look at it every single day. Every single day. And trust me, this is going to prime your way of thinking and prepare your day and prepare your week, prepare your month, prepare your year to move towards where you want to go. And with that, I'd like to thank you for the time. I'd like to thank you for spending an hour, precious hour of your day to learn and just learn something that's totally not related to anything technical. With that, thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining me today.
Thank you, Edwin. Before you take questions, we have a few slides to continue, so we'll take those slides.
Thanks a lot, Edwin, for that wonderful session. For those of you who don't know, Edwin is also going to take a session at Data Platform Summit this year in August. So if you wish to interact with him, please do go ahead and register for Data Platform Summit. Okay, so here is a list of pre-cons. We have 12 pre-cons this year on August 7th and 8th. So the first one would be Troubleshoot and Optimize SQL Server like a Pro by Dimitri. And then Migrating Your On-Premise by Sunil Agarwal, one of our popular speakers. And Power BI from Rookie to Rockstar by Reza Rad. Leading Edge Data Science by Dr. Leila Itati. And by Andy Leonard, Day of Intelligent Data, SSIS and ADF. And Madan Gajendran, Azure Cosmos DB workshop. And Leila Itati again with the Building Intelligent Applications, that is Microsoft AI platform. Steph Locke will be taking Practical R for everyone. Sanjay Mishra with Building a Scalable Data Architecture. Joey will be taking Linux for the SQL Server DBA, and Peter Myers, Zero to Analysis Services. And Denny Cherry, also one of our popular speakers, High Availability and Disaster Management. So if you have any inquiries, here are email address and the numbers. You can reach out to us anytime.
And back to speaker, if any questions, if you can.
I saw one question in the Q&A. Sania asked, I always try to learn something new, but as time passes, I just forget the things. Any suggestions on this? Number one, you're not alone. I forget a lot of things, right? We're humans. And so here's what I do. I write it down. Wait a second, I've learned that when I was a kid. Of course, there are things that we thought we need to learn. And it is very interesting that a lot of things that I cover today is actually just common sense. But sometimes we're so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we totally forget about the common things, like the common sense things. So, Sania, if you want to remember what you did, 2 things. Write it down. I'm old school. I mean, I live in my computer, but I still have pen and paper handy to write down ideas, concepts, things that I've learned, write it down. In fact, one of my most valuable assets is my journal. I write down the things that I'm really thankful for. I write down the insights that I've learned for the day. I still struggle with writing on my journal every day, but again, it is one of my most valuable assets. It reminds me of the things that I've managed to do in the past and what are my accomplishments. I've actually hired a coach, which is very interesting. You might be wondering why would he need a coach? But I've actually hired a coach who is now helping me write what they call the brag book. And the brag book is simply this. It's a list of all the accomplishments you've done ever since you can remember. Write it down. You managed to you managed to win in a math contest when you were a kid. Write it down. You managed to build that cluster on your own. Write it down. You managed to build a team for this new project. Write it down. You've managed to accomplish things. And the brag book, right? The brag book is an opportunity for you to learn, to look at how awesome your life has been and how many things you've accomplished. So every time you feel like, I feel like I can't do this, just look at the brag book. Look at everything that you've accomplished in the past, and it will help you move forwards into the future. Sandeep was asking, learning and not implementing due to lack of opportunities, how to deal with this. You know, it's really interesting when I moved into Canada, and this was way back in 2008, even now, what's really interesting is the irony behind what they call the Canadian experience. What does that mean? It means that companies will only hire people with a Canadian experience, meaning you've already worked for a Canadian company and you have maybe a year's worth of Canadian work experience. Because and if you think about it, this is the reason why a lot of the immigrants coming into Canada, would advanced degrees, PhDs, they're doctors or lawyers, would end up working for McDonald's because they don't have Canadian experience. But what's really ironic is how can you actually have Canadian experience if nobody wants to hire you? So it's a chicken and egg thing. And I like how you asked that question, because you said, well, there is no opportunity. How do I learn? How do I How do I retain that information? Or how do I apply what I've learned if I don't have any opportunity to implement it? I say create that opportunity. When somebody asked me one time, so how did you become so good at what you do? And I said, well, I just happened to do it. When I got hired by that, well-known Japanese company, that was my first real DBA job. Well, think about it. My title was not even DBA. I was a Wintel engineer. And one of the questions they asked me was, do you know SQL Server? Now, keep in mind, this is my very first production grade DBA job. And the first one they asked was, do you know SQL Server? To be perfectly honest, I could always answer, look, I don't know. I don't have production experience. I don't have this. But more than 5 years prior to that job interview, I've already practiced. What I mean by practice is whatever I learn, I apply. So I learned how to install SQL Server. I did it on my own. I learned how to build a cluster. I did it on my own. I know more about SQL Server on their team. I know more about SQL Server than anybody else on that team. I may not have production experience, but I know SQL Server. And I answered the question. Everybody was surprised. And that opportunity gave me much more because now I'm not just learning something new. I'm also applying it on a job. Now, if you're learning, and this is something that you could do, build a personal lab. You want to learn AI? Learn as much as you can, but play on a sandbox. Build a personal lab. Try it out. Do it over and over and over and over and over again to a point that you're sick and tired of doing it. Next thing you'll know, you'll be a master. You'd be an expert at that topic. Is being practical good than being positive? Very great question. I used to think that being practical is better than being positive. I used to think I was the most negative person I could think of ever. Because I just want to be practical. What I've learned for the past 3 years is this. Nobody who has achieved greatness, nobody, I said nobody, name a person who has achieved greatness. Mother Teresa, just use that as an example. Nobody who has achieved greatness has ever been practical. And of course, you have to apply wisdom to that, but keep that in mind. Nobody who has achieved greatness has become practical. It's practical for me to just stay at home and not exercise. It's practical for me to not buy that expensive thing that I need to grow my career. It's practical for me to not pay for that expensive course. I'll just look it up on YouTube, on Google, or on all of the blogs. It's practical for me to do things. But always keep that in mind. Nobody who has achieved greatness has ever been practical. And like I said, I'm Asian. I'm practical. I'm pragmatic and practical. In fact, when a customer comes to me and asks for my help, my solution has always been very, very practical. But it doesn't mean it's not going to cost you. On the flip side, you need to be very positive about things. See things as they are, but not more than they are. What I mean by that is you could be in a very difficult situation, financial situation, emotional situation, right? You may be suffering from some health issues. Like I said, last year I broke my right leg. I could always be in that sad state because it's summer. I should be outside. I should be enjoying this weather. Being in Canada where you got like 4 months of really freezing temperature when it's below 5 Celsius. That's frustrating. I could choose to be sad and discouraged because I can't move. And realize this. I'm a very independent person. I prepare my own breakfast. I do whatever it is that I want. I'm physically active. And then all of a sudden, I can't even prepare my coffee for the morning. Imagine how depressing that is. Imagine how sad and how demoralizing, how discouraging that is. But then I started thinking about the fact that, hey, there's so many things I could be thankful for. And I've already shared with you some of the things that I was really thankful for during that time. Anybody can complain about anything, but if you can find 3 things to be thankful for every day, trust me, it'll change your life. It will change the people around you. And next thing you know, it'll change your community. It'll change your family. It'll change your society. It'll change the world. Charlotte was asking, how do you tackle difficult situations? You tackle difficult situations by understanding that somebody has already solved this before, and maybe you just need to reach out to people who have and ask for their help. I've been in a lot of difficult situations where I realize, and this is just probably me being Asian and sometimes being proud about not asking for help, but realizing, remember that A in the P.D.A principle, I accept the fact that there are things that I can do and there are things that I can't do. I don't know anything about business development and marketing and sales. So I hired a coach to help me with that. It's a difficult situation for me. At one point, I was working with a customer as a consultant. And one of the challenges my previous company had was, if we don't do good on this, we're going to lose the account. And it's $1 million account. I told the sales guys, bring me in the call, and I'll do whatever I can. And the customer is we were talking to a vice president of a division. This is a global financial company. And I was talking to the vice president of a division. And he was asking, can you guarantee this? Can you guarantee that? Can you 100% guarantee that this could work? And I told him right off the bat, and I told the salespeople, don't ever interrupt me when I'm speaking. And I told the vice president of that division, I said, sir, I'll be very honest with you. I can't guarantee anything. Not even your insurance company can guarantee 100%. Nobody can guarantee 100% satisfaction on anything. But here's something that I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you my word. Whatever it is that I promise, I will do. And if that's not enough for you, I will look for somebody who can guarantee you 100%. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to find anybody, but I will help you find a person who would be more than happy to help you out. But I don't think we're the right fit. That was a very difficult situation. And the salespeople were really surprised that I said that, but I said, I'm just being honest. The next day, they signed a contract and we did the project. Just being yourself. Sunny asked, how do we have to take up opportunity when you're not ready? Here's a very honest response. We're never ready. We are never ready. When you think about the perfect opportunity, there is no such thing as a perfect opportunity. The question is, are you mentally ready? One of the reasons why I said you have to focus on those 4 key aspects of your life: emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual, because you need all 4 in order to face an opportunity that you're not ready for. And you're never ready for anything. Now, here's the sad part of that reality. If you're never ready for anything, then you will never take any opportunity. Now, that's the sad part. The question is, are you willing and will you be okay with living the life that you already have, thinking that you can't take up an opportunity because you're not ready for it? Now, here's the thing. Here is the thing. Prepare for any opportunity. Use the skills, the talents, the gifts that you have to prepare for that opportunity. And I can tell you, when the time comes, you will be ready, even if you think you're not ready. I used to think I'm not ready to speak in front of 500, 600 people. And I still feel that. Even after 15 years of speaking in front of people, I feel like I'm not ready. But still, I do it. Why? Because when I face something, when I face a challenge I feel like I'm not ready for, the minute I finish that task, I know I'm ready for the next big thing. Rohit was asking, how do we know when to stop trying? Winners don't quit, quitters don't win. If you know for a fact, and here's the thing, right? This is still looking at those 3 key things. What are you prioritizing? If you're prioritizing your health, do you quit? Do you stop trying? When you're prioritizing your family or the people that matter to you, do you quit? Do you stop trying? When you're prioritizing your finances, do you quit? Do you stop trying? When you're prioritizing your personal growth, do you quit? Do you stop trying? Which is why we started off with identifying the things that really matter to us. Because if it really does matter to you, I can guarantee you're not going to stop trying. I'm not going to try impressing people that don't matter to me. I'm not going to try learning a new technology just because it's the hot new thing. I remember the time when I was doing big data. Oh, what's the hot new thing? Right. It is. I don't tell people I do big data, but I did. Because as a consultant, you need to know. But now I'm okay with not knowing the nitty-gritty, the tiny details of big data, because I know how it works. I've managed to do it before. Do I need to learn more? Probably not. But every day, I look for opportunities to improve on what I'm really good at. Which is why we started off with prioritizing and identifying what really matters to you. And when you know with clarity what really matters to you, you're not going to stop trying. And I really appreciate all of the questions that you're posting on the Q&A. Really appreciate it. Thank you. If this session is something that you think has some meaning in you and you got something out of it, type in the chat window, yes, that was amazing, or yes, I totally agree, or maybe you can type, I disagree with that one point. But if this is something that you found value in, type into the chat window. Not in the QA. Type in the chat window. You can type one thing that resonated with you. And if you still have follow-up questions, you can use the Q&A panel. And I think I've gone beyond the time limit that was given to me. But again, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for spending an hour of your precious time. I don't take that for granted. You know, every time I do presentation, I spend so much time preparing, and this is you probably saw the way I do my slides and the way I tell the story, because I really value the time that you put into learning from somebody. And for me, like I said, that is a priority, because I know every time I share an idea, share a story, do a presentation, deliver a webinar, I know I'm impacting someone else's life. If I'm teaching on how to configure availability groups on Linux, I know I'm helping somebody who's struggling because they need to get enough sleep to get their job done. So Majid was saying, I agree with the time management. It's really difficult to manage the time up for a working professional. Again, like I said, I've changed the way I look at time management. I started looking at it as priorities management, to a point where I don't do too much, right? It's not about the amount of tasks you get done. It's about the outcome, the impact of the outcome coming from the results of what you're doing. I don't do a lot these days. And I tell people my calendar's pretty open just because of the fact that I know what I need to work on. I know what I need to prioritize. But because I focus on my priorities, the impact of the outcome is just way, way beyond when I was just filling up my calendar with task lists. Okay. Like I said, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, follow-up questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or send an email. I've written several blog posts on my personal blog about personal development, time management, leadership skills. They're all there, and you're more than happy to reach out if you have additional questions. Again, thank you so very much. Really appreciate you spending your hour or extra hour in the day to join me today.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you for your wonderful session. I hope all of you enjoyed it.